Both of Florida State's rivals this year have some pretty interesting things that could go down. We're going to talk about that today in our video. Now, BetUS, who we've partnered with, and this isn't necessarily a plug for them, but BetUS, who we've partnered with, has released some odds. And these are pretty hilarious to see. And if you're a Florida State fan, you probably love seeing these, or maybe you like the dumpster fire that is at both programs right now and you hate seeing these. But either way, this probably causes some type of emotion for Florida State fans. Now, before we talk in depth about the odds that you can see on the screen right now, let's remember that Florida State has a coach that won the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year last year, which goes to the best college football coach in the country. Florida State has a coach that Alabama tried to come and get that was maybe going to be the heir apparent for Nick Saban, maybe the greatest to ever do it. And obviously, Coach Norvell, much like Coach Bowden, turned down Alabama and is going to be staying in Tallahassee. But Florida State has a coach that everyone in the country believes is a top 10 coach. And most of the people who know ball, that's the new saying, right, think that he's a top 5 coach in the country. But then you have to look at what's going on down south and just to the east a little bit. And you see that the little brothers in the state, as they currently are, have some different accolades for their coaches. Both of their coaches make the top 3 most likely coaches to get fired at some point through this year during this 2024-2025 football season. In fact, one of the rival coaches surprises me at being number 3, and I'll talk about Mario in just a minute, but I am not surprised at all that the number 1 coach in all of college football who is most likely to get fired this year is none other than Sun Belt Billy, William Napier, down there in Gainesville, who through 2 years, despite having a top 5 quarterback and a top 5 NFL draft pick, despite having a number 1 overall wide receiver, despite actually hating on Graham Mertz and being wildly successful with that transfer portal pickup, despite all of that, has somehow underachieved year after year. You see, year 1, they underachieved with a top 5 draft pick at quarterback by going under 500. And then in year 2, when their over-under win total was just 5.5, they underachieved again by winning 5 games. Remember, they started out 5-2. They were riding high after beating South Carolina on the road just to lose every single game that's left on their schedule. And this year, Vegas thinks they're even worse. Again, you go to BetUS right now, and they have a 125% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits, and you can bet on the over-under win total of 4.5. But if you don't really like that win total, you could also just take Billy Napier at plus money to get fired. If you think they're going to hit the under on under 4.5, don't bet the under, because if they only win 4 games, he's out. Go bet plus 400 on him being the first coach to get fired. It's hilarious when he got hired. I believe the guy's name is Jason Higdon. He may run the rival site, and I'd have to find the screenshot. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter at some point today. So go follow me on Twitter and you'll see that. I believe that he said that Billy Napier's operation at UF was going to be like Nick Saban's operation at Alabama, but on horse steroids. What they were going to get out of Billy Napier was so much better than what the Alabama situation had been under Saban. It was Nick Saban on horse steroids. Absolutely hilarious. Go check my Twitter. I will have tweeted that by the time this video comes out. What about Cristobal there? What about Cristobal at number 3? I actually think that this is not a very good line. And that's not me crapping on BetUS. There are a lot of sportsbook that have this Cristobal kind of number 3 in the country. Sam Pittman number 2 in Arkansas. I don't think this is accurate. And here's why. I would be pretty surprised if Cristobal got fired this year. I think that they're going to win more games than we want them to. I think they win 7, 8, 9 maybe games, right? And even if you say like, well, they'll probably underachieve, they'll probably be at the 7 range. I still think if they win 7, that's improvement. And though there will be disappointment, and people will certainly have him on the hot seat to start the year next year, I couldn't imagine him getting fired for that. Now, they win 5 or 6, maybe there's talks, maybe they start to say, what are we going to do? But I don't think they win 5 or 6. I don't think they fire him if they get to 7. And I think that they understand. And the reason you don't hear about Cristobal on the hot seat like you hear Napier on the hot seat is because if Cristobal doesn't work out, if Mario doesn't work out at Miami, who will ever work out, right? Like they have to make it work with Mario. Whereas Florida can just go hire another G5 coach, another idiot from wherever, and be just fine, right? Like they're on the 3-year cycle with coaches anyway. Like that's not a big deal. But Cristobal has to work out. So I would not bet Cristobal at plus 600. I would bet Napier at plus 400. I think, the Arkansas, I think Pittman's a good bet as well. At the end of the day, it's hilarious. The instability at both programs, though Miami has recruited well, though Florida's done some things well and landing a couple of guys. I mean, with NIL, you can land guys now when your record is terrible. That's fine. They've done some nice things. They just cannot put it together. They can't get out of their own way. And the picture gets painted that these guys just walked into the most awful situations. Just what these guys walked into was just absolutely terrible, when that just wasn't the case. You look at the 247 sports composite. In both of the last 2 years, both Miami and Florida have had top 15 talent level rosters. And they've lost to teams like Arkansas, to Vanderbilt. They've lost to the Middle Tennessee States. They've lost to the Georgia Techs. They've just lost games that are absolutely inexcusable as coaches with way more talent. Some of those losses at home, some on the road, but none of those teams worth losing to. The Dukes of the world, the Missouris of the world, just whomever. And I think that these coaches just are in over their heads. I think the rest of the college football world knows that they're in over their heads. Now, Mario, again, getting a lot of hype. Maybe Miami does some things this year, but it is hilarious to watch as a Florida State fan because you know the solid ground that your coach and your staff is currently on. Now, it's not only hilarious, but the chances they get fired are certainly something we'll talk about. Who is more likely to get fired on this list? Well, I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I do want to very quickly give a little bit of love to some friends of mine, Survival Meds. I was sent this by a friend who sent me some vitamins. I know you guys are thinking, that's not very exciting. Just give me a half a second. I'm here in Dublin. You guys know that. I'm walking a ton. We went to the Cliffs of Moher, walked up over 90 flights of stairs during the day, and that can certainly be draining. I brought my survival meds with me. I brought the Force Multiplier. That is a multivitamin that you guys should go check out. I also made sure to bring my test fire because even after just a few days of taking it, I notice a big difference in my energy levels. Helps kind of raise your testosterone slightly. Like it's not like hormone replacement or anything like that if you're taking injections, but certainly a good partner to have. They sent me some product. I absolutely love it. The link is in the description. I've got more coming on them soon, but make sure that you go check them out. You're getting older. I know the demographic of who's watching these videos. Guys, get on a multivitamin. Get on that test fire. You will not be disappointed if you do. I've enjoyed them, and I want to share them with you guys. Link is in the description. Now, who's the most likely to get fired out of these coaches? Listen, I honestly, not to take you on a huge hook and turn the other way, I think it's most likely Sam Pittman. I think that's the best value on this. Now, could Vandy's coach, could Dave Aranda? Yeah, absolutely. Other coaches get fired. I would not bet Cristobal. I would put a little bit of money on Napier and a little bit of money on Pittman. Arkansas' schedule is absolutely brutal. I don't see a way that they win more than 3, 4, 5 games max. Now, if they win 5, he may stick around. But I think he's going. I think Napier's going too, though. I don't think he's going to be the coach when they come to Tallahassee later in the year. And so for that reason, I would certainly bet Napier. Pittman could get fired first. Arkansas is going to Florida's schedule could allow for Napier to kind of stick around. They could be 4-2 going into that Georgia 4-3, 5-2 going into that Georgia game, kind of like they were last year, and then lose everything again kind of toward the end. They could certainly beat Miami game 1. I mean, Cristobal's an absolute clown show. They could beat a first-year A&M. They could beat a Kentucky at home. They could beat a UCF. They could beat Samford, Mississippi State. I don't think they can beat Tennessee, but they could win a lot of games at the beginning of their schedule. The problem is going to be that they could lose everything once they get through that Georgia game. And so Arkansas could fire their coach first. I think Napier gets fired either way. Arkansas could just be the first to do it. So I think Sam Pittman's actually the best bet on this. So if you want to bet on it, of course, you can go to BetUS, check that out. Appreciate them for their support. Again, I appreciate a ton Survival Meds. The link for them is in the description if you want to learn more, you want to read more. I'll have more coming on them soon. Listen, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Forgive the hopefully the signal's been good. Hopefully the volume's okay. We'll be back in the studio next week, but gonna enjoy Ireland for a few more days. Hopefully bring you a Georgia Tech win home back to the States. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Go Noles.